Stop trying to be so productive that you can't be creative. I've been in business now for 10 years, and that is one of the things that I wish I could tell my past self. Stop trying to be so productive. Stop trying to get so much done. Stop trying to feel busy, because it's actually killing your creativity. And in these coaching and creative businesses, creativity is how you really stand out. Being different, having original thoughts and ideas and being able to bring them to the world is really how you stand out. And when you can stand out like this, everything else becomes easier, because you become a market of one, and it's not based on how much do you actually do. It's not based on, how much force can you put into this day in, day out. I needed to hear this years ago, because back in the day I was a productivity whore. Like it almost gave me a sense of purpose. Like how much busy work could I get done today? Everything was optimized as much as I possibly could. The calendar, I hated to see any white space. It was blocks after blocks after blocks, work block here, work block there. If there was any time in the middle, I hated, doing nothing. I would fill my time with DMs or just reactive work, responding to people, all of this kind of stuff. And, I'd get back to the end of the day, I'd be exhausted. And I thought, that's good. If I feel exhausted, I've probably done a great amount to actually push the business forwards. And I had this thought, this belief that if I could just get more done, if I could just be more productive, things would move forwards. I looked at people ahead of me and I thought, they're ahead of me because they are doing more things in the day. Somehow they are being more productive, right? But this really isn't the truth. What I understand now is, this might sound weird, but productivity is a poor man's game. Productivity really is a poor man's game. If you do go on the quest to being the most productive person in the world, and that's how you grow your business, guess what? Your business is connected to the time and energy that you're putting in, which is not the way that we really want to build these businesses, right? If you are only getting paid more because you're doing more and you're more productive and you're putting more energy and time in, you're building yourself a prison. You're building yourself a job, and by definition, you're being paid on the time and energy that you're putting in. Even if it's not actually selling your time, you're still being paid on the time and the energy that you're putting in. And you're actually going to be holding yourself back with this mindset, holding yourself back from actually being able to find leverage, actually being able to find ways to be able to get paid and to be able to grow the business, everything else progress, without it having to be intimately tied to your time and your energy. And, now, all the way here, there's another big thing that I realize. Like I said before, the best businesses aren't built on force. They're not built on being able to do more than the next person. They're built on creativity. They're built on standing out. They're built on fresh, new ideas. And I realize now that the more that I was filling my calendar up, the more that I was trying to be productive, the more that guilt that I put on myself when I was relaxing or just not busy, right? The more that I was actually hindering my creativity, the more that I was blocking new, fresh, unique ideas and perspectives to be able to come into me. And the more that I was actually stopping myself being able to build a business that isn't based on force, that isn't based on how much can I do? And it's actually based on being a unique business, being a unique person with unique ideas, unique perspectives, unique solutions that people are magnetized towards because they actually want that. And looking back on this, when I heard this, when I integrated this, when I actually started to live it, I realized that one of the things that I had to do was actually loosen my grip on trying to force the universe to do exactly what I wanted, loosen my grip on trying to force my way for this to work, loosen my grip, allow myself to actually have more time to actually understand myself, more space to actually be able to be creative. Then I was able to actually formalize these ideas and express myself much better, and things grew a lot better when I was able to do that. So on the other side of all of this, especially if you're listening to this, it's resonating. Maybe you're in like the forcing camp, the optimizing productivity at every single moment camp. As I reflect back on this change, there's 4 things that I realize is required for real creativity. 4 things that actually trying to be too productive eliminates. And when we can actually optimize for creativity, optimize for these things while still getting everything done that we need to, the ideas will flow, you will stand out, and your business will grow much, much easier. So I'm going to share these kind of 4 points. I think it's 4. I think I've got loads of spiders on me as well. I don't like spiders. I think it's 4. Now I'm going to share with you kind of what my days look like now to allow for this. So number 1, creativity requires space and a feeling of no time. So space is the easy one, right? And this is actually the biggest one that we eliminate when we're trying to be so productive. When we're trying to be so productive, when we're in that mindset. And remember, productivity is a poor man's game. If you do succeed in building your business based on your productivity only, you've built yourself a prison that you can't stop, right? And when we're chasing that rabbit, what we're really trying to do is eliminate all space, because we can't create more time. You can't create more hours in the day. So when people are chasing productivity, and I'm talking about productivity in like the way most people speak about it. I know that you might be sitting there thinking, well, is that really productive? Probably not. But it's the way most people think about the word, right? When we're chasing that rabbit, what we're really doing is trying to fill as much space as we have with as much things as we have, hoping that it gives us the result we want. But as we fill that space, we're actually reducing the space that we've got for creativity. Now, as I optimize for creativity, one of the things I realize is I've got 2 days where I do coaching calls. And on those coaching days, there's very little space and there's also very little creativity. The last thing that happens in those days is I get really, really good ideas because I'm going from call to call to call, which is okay because it's 2 days out of the week. But I noticed that was my whole entire life before, right? Not allowing that space for creativity. In that space, and sometimes even in that kind of that boredom, when we allow ourselves to just enjoy the space for a little bit and reduce the guilt of being there, that's often where the biggest ideas are able to come. And I'm going to explain that in point 2 on kind of how that actually works on a brain level. But we also need something called no time, or the experience of no time. So anytime I'm doing creative work, anytime that I'm trying to flesh out ideas that have already come to me, or I'm enjoying the creation of actually making it real, one of the things that's required is this experience of no time. What that means is, okay, little example. I'm sure you're the same as me. Do you ever find it's funner to work on the weekend? me and my friend were talking about this recently. Like we were saying, it's so much, the weekend, everything just feel like the work we're doing just feels a little bit funner and we can kind of like experience it better. It's because of the sense of no time. There doesn't feel like a time limit. There's always a time limit in life, right? We know how it ends, life, but it doesn't feel like there's any time limit. You're not thinking about other things that you need to go and do. You're not thinking about having to get this done in this amount of time so then you can go and do the next thing. You're not thinking about all of those things. You're able to settle yourself down into this place of no time. You can enjoy the work. You can take your time on these things. And I think that is essential for creative work. It's essential because creative work's weird. It's not about the time that you've put in. I've had experiences before where, I might work on something for 4 hours. And for the first 3 hours, if I look back, not much look like it has got done, like if I look at the 3 hours, it doesn't look very productive, right? But those 3 hours paved the way for the 4th hour where everything came together and it became way more productive than another 4 hours on another task, but it needed that sense of no time. So creativity requires space and no time. And no time doesn't have to genuinely be no time, right? It doesn't, hello. It doesn't have to be actually making sure that there's nothing else to do. One of the ways that you can create this is just a clear container, a long enough and clear container. So you might have calls later on. You might have something to do before. But if you can carve out 3 hours where there's no distractions, where you can put on the timer but forget about the timer, where you can sink into those 3 hours and know that that is enough time to, create some really, really good things. And you can forget about the time because the container has now been built. That container, right, knowing the time is going to go off at some point, and knowing that you can fully relax within that container and you'll be told when it's over, can create that sense of no time. So that's number one. It requires space and it requires a sense of no time. So number two is a bit of a explanation on number one, and especially why we need the space. So I went super deep on this. This actually, I did quite an expensive course on becoming a peak performance coach when I was actually into the productivity stuff, and they spoke about this. So I might butcher some of the things, but the explanation works anyway. So there's two kinds of thinking, convergent and divergent, right? When we are trying to be productive, we're trying to be focused, we're trying to focus on a single task and get it done, we are using convergent thinking, right? Our thinking is being placed on this one particular thing and we're focused on it, and ideally if we're being focused, we're almost drowning out other things. That's really useful when we're trying to be productive and we're trying to be focused, but it's not useful for creativity. It's very useful to figure out a maths equation, for example, like a sum. That's almost like a linear thing to understand. But it's not very useful to figure out something that has lots and lots of moving parts, and there's lots of different things within it that need to be given attention. So when we're on this pursuit of just being more and more and more productive, we're not actually allowing much divergent thinking into our life. Divergent thinking is where the ideas come, right? So when we're exploring this, or enjoying, I should say, the space, when we're allowing ourselves to settle into the space you've created, instead of focusing on jumping on, another task and doing more convergent thinking instead of feeling like you need to stay busy, when you've created and you're actually letting yourself sit in the space and you're not actually focused on any one particular single thing with convergent thinking, this is where, and I hope I'm getting this all right, probably am, but might not be, but the concept still works. This is where the default mode network kicks in. So this is where your mind will start to piece things together without you directly thinking about it. this is where divergent thinking comes into play. And this is actually where the creative ideas come from, right? So we are putting things into our mind, and often creativity is joining the dots of different things and being able to come up with a new thing. We're not very good at doing that in a focused state. But when we're able to put these questions in our mind, or put these concepts in our mind, or put these things in our mind, and then release focus, the default mode network works without us even thinking about it. So if I wasn't doing this YouTube video and I'm just walking along in the forest, allowing my mind to wander, not being very productive, all of the things that I've just been working on, all of the questions I've been posed to myself, all of the raw ingredients that I've put in to my mind, the default mode network is drawing the links between them. And this is where ideas come from. This is why so many people talk about ideas coming to them when they're driving, ideas coming to them when they're in the shower, ideas coming to them when they're on a walk. This is why so many great thinkers and creatives, and I love learning about those kind of people, right? This is why so many of them, pretty much all of them, maybe because it might have been hundreds of years ago, maybe without even knowing the science of this, because probably no one did at that time, they realized that a walk in the day, giving themselves that space and that time, giving themselves that solitude, giving themselves that space to just think and, to allow and to just release their focus on things and just allow the default mode network to work, was one of their most treasured moments to actually allow this stuff to come in. So again, this goes back to the space thing. If you're always focused, you can't allow the default mode network to do its thing. Hopefully I got all the scientific terms right there, but the concept is the same. And the fourth thing that's required for quality creativity is raw ingredients. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine, right? It's linking ideas together. So often creativity is linking ideas together, right? And just like I said before, that default mode network is doing that thing, but it needs the raw ingredients to be able to do that. So while we are creating space, creating a sense of no time, giving ourselves the ability to enjoy that divergent thinking, around that we want to be making sure that we're actually compiling raw ingredients into the mind that it can do its thing with. And for these raw ingredients, I believe the best things are the things that are not necessarily related directly to your niche. Because in your coaching business, this is often where the biggest ideas come from. They're actually drawing from two niches, or drawing from two areas or three or four, and putting them together to create something new for your niche. If you're only ever, single-mindedly focusing on that one place, that one niche, that one thing, you're learning the same as everyone else. And it's going to be very hard for your default mode network to come up with unique ideas. So one of the simple frames I love to follow is just like, allow yourself, and allow is a big one, at least for me. Allow yourself to follow your curiosities and your passions. Allow yourself to think, that's interesting. Last night I was chatting to ChatGPT for an hour about Nikola Tesla. And then it went on to some mad shit around like, is that real? How does that work? I was just following a curiosity. And he would believe in a lot of the things I'm saying here, by the way. I now know after an hour-long chat with ChatGPT. But allow yourself to follow these curiosities. Every single day I read, and very rarely is it actually within, business and marketing itself. I have other places I learn that from more directly, but I read in other areas that really, really interest me. Human behavior, psychology, spirituality, things like this. Right? I read in those areas, and that allows me to draw the lines, draw the dots in between the two, and probably, at some point has allowed me to come up with this, and now I'm transmitting it to you in a video. So make sure throughout the week there are moments where you're allowing yourself to follow your curiosities and passions that are not exactly to do with your business directly, putting in the raw ingredients. And allowing yourself is a huge term, at least for me. That was huge for me because, again, when we're trying to be productive, when it's the only thing we're thinking about, growing this business, you can make yourself feel guilty for that stuff. You can make yourself feel guilty for learning about artists or learning about something else. But actually, that is the way to generate these unique ideas. And I think I'll give you one more bonus one. You might not be interested in this one. You might not be open to this one, but one little bonus one that I believe, and by the way, I feel like I'm getting lost in this forest right now. The paths are getting less and less clear. Anyway, one final little bonus one, and I believe this. Many, many, many creatives, in different words sometimes, but they often say the same thing, which is when they are getting their creative ideas, when they are creating things, when they are coming up with new things, it doesn't feel like they created it. It feels like they are downloading it from the source, from some sort of universal energy. Carl Jung would call it the collective unconscious, I think, or collective conscious, collective unconscious, I think. So many, across the years, hundreds of years, so many creatives, people that you've heard, people that have changed the world, have all spoken about the fact it does not feel like they come up with these ideas. It feels like they download them from the universe, from something. And many of them speak about making sure, and Nikola Tesla talked about this too. Obviously, I just said that I learned a lot about him yesterday. And he believed his brain, I think he created like radios and stuff. I was more interested in the way he works and what he created, but I think it was like radios, or a really, really important piece of technology to allow for that. And he believed the world was frequencies and energies, and he believed if he was able to get his mind on the frequency of the core of the universe, this is what he said, this is where his ideas come from. He said that his ideas came almost fully formed from this download. Now, whether that's some crazy universal spiritual thing, whether it's just a default mode network doing its thing and it just feels like that, who knows? But I believe that works some way. And I create the space for that to happen, right? So what does this mean? If your mind is constantly full, if you're constantly thinking about different things, if you're constantly focused on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, or you've even just got, your mind is just flying around all of the time, there's no space for these downloads. There's no space for this. Or if your mind is loud, or if you are not sensitive to the whispers of these ideas, you won't be able to catch them. Again, whether it's some crazy universal thing, or it's your default mode network giving you ideas. If you're not giving yourself the time to be in tune with yourself, being sensitive to yourself, and being able to feel these things, hear these things, because they come through as whispers, you're going to miss them. And this is why I think a huge part of creativity is being able to be, sensitive to these things. Now, I think guys are the worst for this. I definitely would have been. Like if you are not sensitive to your emotions and you're not sensitive to your inner world and your feelings, I believe you're also not going to be sensitive to these things coming through or these downloads coming through. So for me, again, space, time alone, but also daily meditation. I'm probably going to say this word wrong too, Vipassana meditation, daily when I'm good. And that literally is tuning into the sensations in your body, also emotional sensations, your thoughts, tuning into that every single day for 20 minutes or longer if you're doing longer than me, and becoming sensitive to these things. And I've worked with spiritual teachers that speak about this, and it can be a painful process as well, because as you become more sensitive, you become more sensitive to your emotions as well. You notice that they're there, but you're sensitive to them. You are noticing them more, you're feeling them more. But I think that is also a huge pattern with creatives. They're kind of weird sometimes, right? Because they are more sensitive, they are able to hear, feel, see these whispers. And I believe part of that is becoming more sensitive, first of all to yourself and trusting your own intuition, but also being able to actually hear it in the first place. So, last one got a bit weird. I believe that stuff. You may not. The other ones aren't that weird. I'm sure you believe those ones at least. So now you might be interested in kind of like, what does this look like for me? Or what are some things that I make sure to do to allow for this? So first of all, it's the way the business is set up. In the week of Monday to Friday, I have 2 coaching days and I have 3 creation days. So the coaching days are the days where I have my group calls, are the days that I have my one-to-one client calls, and it's where I do all of my coaching. The creation days, there are no calls. There may be calls personal to me, but there are no calls, and there's very, 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 most of the time, nothing in the diary. And I have that space and that sense of no time built in. Next, I have my morning creation blocks every single morning. On the coaching days, they're only 2 hours, so they're a lot shorter, but I'm still creating. On the creation days, they're much longer, and as long as they actually need to be, and as long as I want them to be. This, again, gives me that sense of no time and the ability to sit in the creation and actually, have these creative ideas come through. And these morning creation blocks are in the morning for a reason. So I look at creativity, everything has its opposites. And I think creativity's opposite is reactivity. And reactivity is a lot easier than creativity. If you get some input and you just react to it quickly and it's there, the answer's very, very clear, it's easy. And I see this with coaches a lot. The easiest work, I'm not saying it's not effort, I'm not saying that it doesn't take time, but the easiest work from a cognitive standpoint is often getting back to clients, because you know all of the answers most of the time, and it's just a case of seeing what's come in, seeing the message that you got. I think there's a spider on me. Seeing the message that you got and responding to it. And I see a lot of coaches and creators kill their creativity because they get into reactive mode way too quickly. They wake up and the first thing they do is get back to clients, and they get into reactiveness, or they get back to leads or whatever else, and they get into their reactive state. From this state, the easy state where you just respond, whatever else, react, it's hard to drop into that creativity. It's hard to now start to create things from nothing. That's cognitively quite difficult. So as I wake up and I go into these morning creation blocks, when I'm good, it doesn't happen every time, my phone is on airplane mode. I haven't looked at any messages. I haven't looked at anything at all. Nothing's come in. I've reduced as much as I can, even conversations and anything that's actually come in for me to be able to react to. Done my meditation, done stuff like that. And I can get straight into the creative work when I haven't got into any reactive work before. And I think this is one of the big changes that you can probably make instantly to improve your ability to be creative. Now, in these creative blocks, one of the things that I like to do, and again, if this was me not that long ago, I would not have felt comfortable doing this because it didn't feel productive enough. But after my morning of meditation and my walk, I'll sit down and I will actually write on a blank piece of paper, pretty much unconsciously, stream of consciousness, kind of like morning pages from The Artist's Way, but a little more conscious than that. And I'll ask myself, what's coming through for me? This isn't just business stuff, but it's just everything stuff, right? Because that's where the creativity is going to come from. What's coming through to me? What am I experiencing right now? What wants to come through me today and into the world? And this is where this space to really explore this is where so many ideas come from, and where I give myself the permission to find them and to actually kind of understand them. right? And flesh them out, and to bring them, first of all, to a piece of paper, and then to the world. And when I don't do this, or when I go through weeks where things are very, very, very busy, and I don't give myself the space to do this, not surprisingly, there's not so many ideas. And it might not even be because they're not there, but it's because I'm not allowing myself to see them. So there's that space to think, that space to feel, that space to actually express that stuff before it goes anywhere else, just to explore it myself. And by the way, some of that is personal as well. It's not all just like business related, but being able to tune into that, personalness is where the creativity is going to come from, because it's still coming from you as a human being, right? Whether it's business or not. And finally, daily reading, right? Every single day. And I started this 10 years ago when I came home from a season in Ibiza and I wanted to build my business and I didn't really know where to start. And I just thought, well, I'll read every day instead. That will help. And I still do that to this day. And again, it's around my curiosities and passions. I allow myself to read different things. I allow myself to jump from book to book. I allow myself to skip books. I allow whatever. I just follow the creativity. I follow the energy. I follow the curiosity and the passion. And I just put more raw ingredients in. So don't be so productive that you can't be creative. And I hope this video has inspired you to be able to be more creative in your business. And I hope you can see where actually that creativity is the thing that's going to be able to set you apart in the marketplace and actually drive things forwards.